Freem Family Brewers has opened up a second location in Milwaukee, just south of Portland, so you're now less than a half hour away from their 20-plus taps of award-winning beer and consistently delicious food. Plus, they're in an old firehouse where they turned the old fire pole into a fully functioning tap, which I think is really cool. And if beer isn't really your thing, well, they also have 3 bars with seasonal cocktails. Freem Milwaukee is open daily from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Head over to freembeer.com for a full menu. That's PFRIEM beer.com. Looking for something different than the usual sports scene? Head over to Sticky Wicket, Portland's home for foreign sports. You can go watch cricket at all times, but there's also plenty of men's and women's soccer, rugby, Aussie rules football, and so much more. There's drag bingo at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays, trivia also at 7 on Thursdays, and free metal darts whenever. So get out of the house and cheer on your extremely niche sports team together. Visit Sticky Wicket in St. John's. For more info, go to stickywicketpub.com. That's stickywicketpub.com. Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about what the government shutdown means for our city, and we also check in on Trump's federal troop deployment. Plus, we have dispatches from CityCast colleagues in 3 other cities who've gone through their own threat of deployment or actual occupation. They're giving us updates on how their cities are doing and sharing advice on how to get through it all. Joining me on this week's Friday News Roundup are KBOO News Director Althea Billings and our very own executive producer, John Notarianni. It's Friday, October 3rd. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Welcome, everyone, to the Friday News Roundup. Althea, John, thanks for joining me this morning.
Hey, good morning, Claudia.
Hey, Claudia.
For those of you new to the show, today is the day we break down some of the biggest local stories of the week with some of the best and brightest journalists in town. And normally I kick us off with an opening question so our listeners can get to know our guests a little better. But we have such a jam-packed show, which includes dispatches from CityCasters in Los Angeles, DC, and Chicago. Because you see, one of the many great things about CityCast is we do have a national network of hosts, producers, and coworkers that we can tap into. And we thought it might be helpful to check in on those who've already dealt with a threat or have already gone through one of Trump's federal troop deployments. A big shout out to our listener, Katie H., who inspired this idea. She wrote in asking for more national context, and we were like, oh yeah, I know a guy.
You know a lot of guys.
Yeah, I know some guys. Also, this is the final day of our fall campaign. Thanks to everyone who has already joined our CityCast Portland Neighbors program. One of the things that I heard over and over from our friends in other cities who have already dealt with this Trump federal takeover is that what got them through was their community and sticking together. And that is our main goal here at CityCast Portland. We are trying to get you connected to our city, to each other. And one of the ways that we're doing this is through this membership program. It's just $10 a month or $100 a year. You're gaining access to the CityCast Portland neighbor community, folks like you who love this city and want to see it thrive. You get ad-free listening, an early look into our event picks for the week, free giveaways, member-only events, and other great perks, including, this time around, a pretty sweet tote bag. And today is the last chance to get our Neighbors Make Portland tote bag. Though, if you hear this on the weekend and still want that tote bag, I'm sure we can make it happen.
We know a guy.
We know a guy. This just be the whole show. We're just like, anyhow, we know a guy. Head over to membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. All right, on to the news of the week. Althea, you looked into the government shutdown and what it means for us Portlanders. Man, this country cannot stop winning. Lay it on us. How screwed are we?
Well, some of us are more screwed than others. If you're one of about 10,000 federal workers in Oregon, you are probably off the job. That's about a third of the federal workforce in Oregon. We're talking people working for Fish and Wildlife, the Geological Survey, the EPA, NOAA. All of their work is being suspended right now. And you know, it's times like these when we remember how much we actually interact with our government and might need them to be doing things. So there's also some delays expected in a number of different programs, but regular benefits for things like Social Security, VA benefits, those are still going to go out. But if you're processing applications, expect some delays on that kind of thing. I think most pressing to me is the WIC program, actually. WIC is for women, infants, and children, supplemental nutrition program. That one is probably going to run out of funding in the next couple of days. SNAP food assistance is likely to last through the month. OHP, which helps administer that in Oregon, is keeping an eye on it. There's probably some state funds that could help support WIC for a little bit longer, but it's this really kind of murky, dicey situation. There are some other things where folks are essential workers. They're staying on without pay. That's folks who are TSA, air traffic controllers. You'll still be able to go to the airport. Postal Service funds itself, so we're still going to be getting mail. The Weather Service is staying on. FEMA is kind of staying on, but they're also running out of money for things that are pressing. And also in looking at this reporting, if this is going to be similar to the 2018 government shutdown, which ended up being 35 days, we saw towards the end of that a lot of sick outs. So people calling in sick for work that they were not getting paid for.
Can you blame them?
I
Can you blame them?
No kidding.
Nope, cannot.
The first full paycheck that folks are going to miss will be October 24th and then the 15th for military folks. One of the big questions is what the Park Service will be doing. Like, can you go to national parks? In some shutdowns, they've really turned people away. In other ones, they let people come in, but there was no trash removal and people were defacing monuments and stuff. It's a little unclear which of those it's going to be. It's seeming to be a little bit more open. I was trying to look into this today, but the Department of Interior site that's supposed to diagram basically what's going on, what's shut down, is broken. And they're like, there's a thing at the top where they're like, we're not going to update it. And then if you try to go through the links, which everything is linking back to, is like, do you want to know if this national park is open? Go this way. And it's broken already.
Wow. So what does this mean, do you think, for the troop deployment timeline? Is this going to gunk it up, or is that a completely different pot of money? Like, do we know?
I believe they would be working without pay. However, if Congress passes a continuing resolution to fund the government again, they would get back pay. Also worth noting, furloughed workers. Trump's been threatening to fire like everybody that's getting furloughed. Not everybody, but a lot of workers are like, what if we just also fired you? People who are furloughed right now can apply for unemployment from the state. That's open to them. If they do get back pay, they have to pay back the unemployment. So it's more like a loan. But that is also an option.
Yeah. I think on one hand, it's easy to feel like, phew, okay, so this is going to impact federal workers, but this isn't going to destroy the services that the rest of us rely on, which is not an unreasonable thing to feel. But there are 30,000 federal workers in Oregon, so this is going to affect a lot of people. And something that I thought was interesting, if we want to think about the impact that this is going to have on everyday people, this isn't necessarily connected to the shutdown, but there was also a news story that SNAP benefits are changing, which are going to impact 313,000 people statewide. Now, you might say, John, why are you bringing that up? That doesn't have anything to do with it. Part of the Democrats' reasoning for allowing the shutdown to happen is because of these cuts to Medicaid and SNAP programs that have went through. So, in a weird way, this shutdown is trying to prevent that from happening. That is the big push the Democrats are making to get these benefits and Medicaid benefits reinstated. So it's just a really sort of cruel irony of this shutdown.
The Democrats have a terrible press person. They have terrible marketing. They really should be a little clear on what they're doing. Do you know what I'm saying? We're always just what are they doing? And then you find out and you're like, that's I support that.
It doesn't help that Republicans appear to be violating the Hatch Act and commandeering every national website to say that the radical left shut down the government.
Oh, man.
There's some narrative issues there.
Yeah.
Wait, the radical left is in charge of the government? Wow.
That is news to people like us.
I had no idea.
So shout out to the federal workers. Sorry to the people who are working without pay. I hope that they fix that for you.
Yeah, it really does suck. Well, thank you, Althea, for looking into it. Let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, more headlines of the week. You know, traveling after Labor Day might be a cheat code because trails and beaches are less crowded and we're past all those scorching hot days. So if you're looking to explore a bit more of Oregon before the rains come, skip Airbnb and Vrbo and hit up Cascadia Getaways. They're locally owned and operated by Oregonians who love this state as much as you do. Plus, they're on average 5 to 15% cheaper than most of these larger vacation rental platforms. They've got stunning homes across Mount Hood, the coast, Central Oregon, and more. And if you're currently in the market for someone to manage your vacation property, Cascadia Getaways is always looking for local partners. Whether you choose to book with Cascadia Getaways or another property manager, remember just to book direct, book local, save money. It's a win-win. Visit CascadiaGetaways.com to book your next trip or connect with their team. That's CascadiaGetaways.com. October is here, and so is the return of chilly air seeping into your home. So if you still have old, creaky, or cracked windows, Window Nation has some pretty cool sales and promotions going on right now. Like this month, the more windows you buy, the more you can save, from 30 to 50% off your total project. There's also no limit to how many windows you replace, and your total price includes 1-day installation. Plus, you could celebrate your newly upgraded home with 2 free tickets to an upcoming Portland Thorns game and a pair of 2-day Icon Session passes. So get started on your free estimate before October 31st to save big on your replacement windows. Schedule a fast free estimate now with the pros at windownation.com. That's windownation.com. License number OR 249065. All right, we're back, and John is going to give us a quick check-in on where we're at with Trump's troop deployment, which, by the way, you guys, Trump has already declared troops arrived in our city on social media. But as of Thursday morning when we're taping this, there are no troops in Portland, Oregon. And this is why local journalism is important. And John's actually has a little more to say on that before we dive in.
Yeah. This is the last day of our fall membership campaign, and I kind of want to talk about why news is often depressing. I've been thinking about it, and so often news feels like this outside force that is happening to us, right? And these days, that can feel really nasty. But at best, news, especially local news, it really is kind of the voice of the community and like everything that we think and feel, and sometimes we are angry or scared, but like so often we're also feeling joyful or defiant or silly. And I feel like, I've worked in a lot of different local news organizations, but this is one that really feels like we are creating community with all of you that are out there listening and writing in and reading the newsletter every day. And that's kind of the idea of the CityCast Portland Neighbors program. It's the space to share and reflect about our city, whether we're psyched about cool new stuff that's happening or pissed off about some bullshit. And this is some bullshit right now. I think it's really important to be able to have this space to talk with and to each other about this stuff. And personally, I love hearing all of your stories and reasons for supporting us. We got a message from Thomas RN, who said, "I've been listening for the last year. This podcast is a celebration of community. It has connected me to lots of fun things and places, but I most value getting meaningful local news and thoughtful discussions of hard things." Also heard from KDW, who said, "I love Portland. My family moved here when I was 9 years old in 1988. I've grown up here. It's important to hear local news from local residents who also care about the state of our city. I raised my son in Northeast Portland, and I've seen a lot of changes. We have overcome so much, and I'm so proud of our community." Thank you so much to Katie and Thomas. We agree with you. We are really glad to be able to do this work and appreciate your support. And you can join them, be a part of the CityCast Portland neighbor community today. Since this is the last day of the drive, as we said, this is the last day to get that tote bag, even though you can get it over the weekend, wink, wink. Check it out. Go sign up. We would love to have you be a part of it. Membership.citycast.fm.
Yeah, last day, basically, officially. Yeah. But again, I know a lot of you listen to this on the weekend. We'll get you your tote bag too.
We got you.
John, did you get a tote bag?
I have not gotten a tote bag. You got a tote bag. I'm still waiting on my tote bag.
So I immediately gave it to my neighbor. Neighbors do make Portland, and I love my neighbor, and so I just gave it to her.
Aww.
As soon as it came in. It's very sturdy. It is perfect. I gotta tell you, for farmers markets, I can already tell because it's very thick. So all your wet stuff, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not gonna soak through. It's gonna be fine.
Nice.
I like to buy hummus by the handful personally, so that'd be good for me.
I don't know if this tote bag is going to hold up with hummus by the handful, Althea. But by the way,
That sounds like a lot of hummus, Althea. I don't know.
Please send me that little market. I'd like to see them hurling that. I'm assuming it's like Pike's Market. They're just hurling hummus and you catch it.
Yeah. They got a big spoon.
Okay, great.
They wind up. And you got to be ready. You got to get your hands out. Ideally, bring a baseball glove, but...
Oh, man. Well, John, what is going on? I mean, again, Thursday morning, as of right now, where are we in the deployment?
Well, if you listen to President Trump, Antifa have been viciously attacking federal agents at ICE facilities in Southeast Portland. Obviously, there's not a lot of evidence of that happening. On Wednesday afternoon, there were a grand total of 6 people present protesting at the ICE facility in Portland. No visible military presence. As you said, we still haven't seen anybody in the streets showing up. And I think, like, for where we're at as a city right now, if troops were showing up and putting their boots on the ground, we would know very, very quickly. Like, I think that the entire internet is going to light up as soon as they get here. ABC News has been reporting that soldiers are still in civil disturbance training, which thank heavens they're getting that training, right? We also heard from an Oregon Guard spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Bromar, who told OPB they've been delayed by medical screenings, paperwork, crowd control training. So early next week is when people are expecting, if the troops are going to come, that is likely when we will see them. But I mean, there is still the question of this lawsuit that was filed by the governor and the attorney general on Monday, basically claiming that this is illegal, it violates the 10th Amendment, and asking a judge to declare the deployment illegal. Well, a court hearing is set for Friday on that, which, if you're listening to this podcast, that is today at 10 a.m. And if it's granted, that would immediately put a hold on all of this and stop it in its tracks. So that is going to be the big next thing that we are all keeping an eye on.
Right.
But at this point, it's still on. We're expecting to see the troops here probably early next week. There was a really interesting letter from an adjutant general basically acknowledging that members of the Oregon National Guard might have reservations about showing up and executing the mission in their own city, but urging them to be professional about it. This is a quote. "I know some of you may have strong feelings about this mission. That's okay. You are citizens first, but you're also service members who took an oath to support and defend the Constitution and follow the orders of the president and the governor." Which, if you're having to say that sort of booster do your job message before the deployment has even happened, I feel like that's not a great sign. But yeah, I don't know. What are you guys feeling on this? I feel like it's been a whirlwind of a week already.
Yeah, it's been pretty fast and furious. Also, not the orders of the governor, just for the record. She's pretty outside the camp of people who are egging this on. Yeah, I've been following this. It seems everybody's really confused about the timeline. Whether you're the governor, whether you're Jeff Merkley, our senator, whether you're the Oregon National Guard themselves. So it's a whole thing and it takes a while. But yeah, definitely been watching out for this court case. KBOO interviewed Attorney General Dan Rayfield on Wednesday. And one of the things that we asked him about was how this case compared to other ones in other cities where folks have been, the National Guard has been sent out. And what he was telling us was that the facts of the Oregon case may be more clear and cut and dry than in other cities. That Title 10 of the United States Code allows for the federalizing of the National Guard in cases of invasion, rebellion, and if the president can't enforce the laws. It's those 3 only. Otherwise, the governor has to be involved, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff, right? And they shouldn't be doing law enforcement to begin with, but
no, that's actually illegal.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't go in Chicago, because here's the deal. It's the guise under which Trump is saying they need to be there. This is why he's selling Portland is on fire. Because he's like, oh, we're protecting the federal building, we're quelling. Because he was able to do it in LA, as you will hear soon, because there were actual protests and things were on fire. And he was able to get in that way. And so that's why he's trying to spin that narrative right now about Portland. If you're wondering, wait, well, how are we a hellscape? It's because that's the only way legally he can bring in troops.
Yeah.
But he can't come in and he did in DC, where they were somehow cleaning up the streets and stopping crime. They can't do that here because we're an actual city in a state.
Yeah, because the weirdness of how DC fits into the federal government.
Exactly. A couple things. Something that did pop up when I was like, well, how's everyone taking this? I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was an emergency naked bike ride that's been called out. So that might happen, y'all. It's a little blustery right now, but I guess we're going to have a naked bike ride. I was reading the comments and they're like, I may not be fully naked. It's a little cold, but I will show up.
I spent some time on the Reddit comments about this, so there's a few that I will not repeat, but my favorite was guns out, buns out.
Also, Governor Tina Kotek has calculated that the troop deployment in Portland could cost taxpayers as much as $10 million.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing that came up where I was like, nice.
The thing that I thought was interesting about that was the initial estimate was that it was going to cost $3.8 million. But then they said that number did not include food, lodging, transportation, or logistical costs, that's how I want a budget for my next vacation.
You're just like, oh, just me existing, nothing else. Like, what is this?
Cheapest
Vacation costs $40 to go to France,
Vacation, $40. So dumb. Oh, man. Well, after reading that article, John, about these troops having to be basically told, like, hey, I know that this sucks for a lot of you. You don't want to be here, but we have to do it. I was just curious because, just scrolling through TikTok, I had already heard from veterans voicing their opinions that there was no way the military was okay with how Trump had been using federal troops to stage these occupations in like more blue-leaning cities. And Trump was saying stuff like he's going to use cities as training grounds for the military.
Yeah.
So I actually went into the largest military subreddit on Reddit to scope the vibe.
Oh, boy.
And it's mostly posts bashing Trump and the U.S. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and ICE. I was so surprised because I thought that the military tended to lean conservative. There's even threads specifically on Portland, and most share concern along with a stream of Portlandia gifs, still clowning on us because fair, we're ridiculous. But there's actually a lot of sincere advice being given about how to mobilize and protest without falling into the let's burn this all down mentality, because it's clearly what Trump wants. He wants us on fire. I also wanted to share a note from a listener who happens to be a veteran that I thought would be of use to all of us at this moment. Will H. wrote in, "Hi team, founding member. I've written in a few times. More fuck words, please." So that was that.
our dirty mouths have been a topic of conversation.
Oh, I see.
That we curse too much.
He continues, "I am a veteran, and there are things I would like people to keep in mind about Trump's occupation of Portland. First and foremost, soldiers are poor kids that joined because they had to. Very few people join on a whim or for fun. They are not cops. They do not join because they want to crack skulls. They don't want to do law enforcement. They are not ICE. Many of them are foreign-born people looking for a path to citizenship. They want healthcare, housing, to care for their dependents, and tuition. From day one, soldiers are taught that their honor is important. The Army Corps values is a semi-acronym, leadership. It stands for loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage." And then in parentheses, he wrote, they really had to work hard with that P. Anyhow, he then went into detail about what each of these terms means, and then he continues, 80 years ago, we decided as a species that following orders is not a legal defense. These soldiers may need a reminder and will need to cling to their 7 core Army values if they want to get old without regret. If anyone out there can talk to these soldiers, please mention a national veterans organization, About Face, Veterans Against the War. I am a proud member since 2019. We have the resources to help active duty troops become conscientious objectors and or get out of the military. No one has ever gone to war and become a better person. These are dangerous times, and I hope we can figure out a way to minimize the harm for everyone on all sides. And by the way, the military has no authority over civilians. Y'all outrank everyone in the military. I hope everyone stays safe, cool, and that 60 days from now, this looks like Trump's wet fart of a military parade. I have no idea how this is going to shake out, but I do know we will get through this together. I love this city. I love its people. I could have gone anywhere after I left the Army. I had been a lot of places, but I was born and raised here, and Portland is a part of me. It will always be my home, even if I technically live in Milwaukee." And then he wrote to us, John, Do Milwaukee content, you cowards. Your neighbor, your friend, Will H.
Freem Brewery, now open in Milwaukee. Check it out.
Will H, go to Freem Brewery.
I like Milwaukee.
Yeah. I also just want to say that Will's veteran group will be holding a press conference this Sunday at 2 p.m. at Portland City Hall, and he's invited everyone to attend if you'd like to show your support.
Very nice.
So Thank you, Will H., for taking the time to writing your thoughts. And of course, thank you for your service. Let's take another quick break here. And when we come back, more headlines of the week. Okay, I have the next 60 seconds to convince you to go check out Doer Jeans. You can time me. Are we ready? Okay, go. Doer makes stylish, bike-friendly clothes that are designed to keep you cool, comfortable, and looking good. They're pioneers of blending technical innovation with everyday clothing without it looking like boring athletic wear. Like, even if these clothes weren't made with Coolmax, which is supposed to regulate your body temp and wick moisture, you would want to wear them. They gave me a pair of jeans to try out, and y'all, they look good. And they're not harnessing the full power of the sun and directing it straight to my legs like most other jeans do when it's sunny and above 70 degrees. Doer is opening a new store right here in Portland on Northwest 23rd. And CityCast Portland listeners get 15% off their first order. You can either just mention the code CCPDX for your first in-store purchase or go online at shopdoer.com/CCPDX. That's shopdoer.com/CCPDX. 60 seconds on the dot. Hello, it's Claudia Meza, host of CityCast Portland. You probably know from listening to the show that I love Portland and I love helping you feel more connected to it. But the only reason this show works is because of you. You tune in because you're genuinely invested in the local conversation. And if I had to guess, I'm thinking you're someone who shops local whenever possible. You've probably signed a petition or two to help out your neighbors, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're carrying your library card right now in your wallet. If this sounds like you, I'd like to invite you to join CityCast Portland Neighbors. Our membership program is designed to help folks like you who care about our city engage more deeply with life here. You'll get invites to member-only events like happy hours, insider tours, and volunteering opportunities. You'll also get a curated weekly roundup of the best things to do in the city and the chance to share what you love about Portland on our podcast and newsletter. Plus, your membership directly supports the people making this podcast so we can keep bringing you the local stories that matter. Become a CityCast Portland neighbor for only $10 a month or $100 a year at membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. And now through October 3rd, when you sign up, you get this awesome tote bag that says, "Neighbors Make Portland." Because it's true, when neighbors show up, our community thrives. So if you join today, you'll get that tote at membership.citycast.fm. Thank you so much. All right, guys, so I have 3 dispatches from cities that have already gone through Trump, not only ramping up ICE presence and raids, but also sending additional federal troops in a show of force. And so I asked each person to give us an update on how things are going and also if they had any advice for us. First up, from Los Angeles, CityCast Chief Operating Officer Sarah Menendez was living pretty much at ground zero of all the protests and then where the federal troops landed to quell said protests. And here's what she had to say.
Hi, CityCast Portland listeners. My name is Sarah Menendez. I live in Los Angeles. And more specifically, I live in downtown LA in the Arts District Little Tokyo neighborhood. This neighborhood was under the curfew zone at the peak of the ICE raids and National Guard deployment. I live just a short walk away from where the bulk of the protests were happening. The constant helicopter surveillance, the police officers kettling protesters, tear gassing protesters, constant sirens, etc. I want to say that LA is still standing, barring a couple of Waymos that were burned as a part of the protest. We did not incur any significant damages, and most of LA was pretty untouched by the protest. It was not out of control by any means. Again, I lived down the street. I was able to go get my groceries and walk to coffee. the real issues were the curfew, and the biggest issue of all was the fear that was instilled across our communities by these ICE raids. That part has not gone away. I am a lifelong born and raised Angelino. I was here during COVID. I've been here during the many wildfires, including those that happened earlier this year. And I'm struggling to put into words the kind of anxiety and fear that we have experienced as a city as a part of these raids, especially as someone who comes from the Latino community, as someone who grew up in Southeast LA, where our communities are heavily populated by migrants. People were afraid to leave their homes to do grocery runs, to pick up their kids from school, to attend graduations. You know, folks were getting taken from graduations. It was really, really frightening. But what I'll also say is that we saw Angelinos show up as neighbors in a way that was really beautiful. People volunteering to run groceries for folks at the height of the raids, providing assistance with child pickup, sharing resources, sharing information, making sure that our neighbors are educated on their rights. And it was and is a very beautiful thing to see. And it's what we really continue to hold on to as a means for hope. And I really hope that for those of you who are listening and bracing yourselves for what changes might come to your cities, I hope that you learn to lean on each other as neighbors as well, and remember to look out for each other during this time. So that's the dispatch from here. Sending you all best of luck from LA.
Sarah.
One thing that stuck out to me a little bit was talking about the protests. And one thing we didn't mention about relating it to Portland, Portland Police Bureau was in court last week saying on the record that the feds are the ones instigating in these instances that they're pointing to of protesters, you know, coming into clashes with them. And what I heard from Sarah is kind of a similar thing, that it's not the protesters who are committing violence out of nowhere.
Yeah. Except for the Waymos, but they should all be set on fire. Those are the self-driving cars. If you're just like, what's a Waymo? Because we don't have them here. They're self-driving cars, and they should all be thrown into a river.
God, I hope they don't come here.
Go.
But we can't stop them because there's no people in there.
Oh, my God. Okay. Next up is CityCast DC senior producer Julia Karen. As a reminder, only LA and DC have had federal troops actually sent to their city. In LA, again, to quell, but in DC, they were scheduled to have federal troops patrolling the city, fighting crime or whatever, for 30 days. That's now wrapping up. But what was particularly terrifying for DC, which John and I sort of touched on, is that they're not part of a state. They don't have a governor, just a mayor with limited power flapping in the wind. So they have no easy way of fighting back legally. They had no idea when it was going to end. Here's what Julia had to share.
Hey, this is CityCast DC senior producer Julia Karen. So I think my biggest advice to the folks in Portland is that because you're not DC, it will not be as bad. DC is a very special case because it's not part of a state. So think of if like Trump decided to deploy the National Guard to Guam or Puerto Rico, you know, their territory. So they don't have as many rights, and Trump has more leverage to do more stuff. Because you guys are in a state, your mayor has a ton of leverage over Trump. So, for example, your police department doesn't necessarily have to partner with the National Guard. The other thing I would say is community really matters in this moment. There are a ton of WhatsApp groups and Signal chats and things of that nature that are organizing and rallying. And so I would say lean on that community. You are definitely going to need it. Find those group chats, find those friends. And I cannot stress enough that in Portland, it is going to be very, very important.
Oh my gosh, Claudia, I didn't realize you were just programming us a pep talk from all of our colleagues. This is great.
Isn't that so sweet? Well, CityCast DC's executive producer, Annie Reese, also wanted us to know that even though the federal troops descending on their city was frightening and awful, the experience actually left her loving her city and community that much more because of how everyone banded together. But yeah, I was very surprised that everybody was just like, I loved my city even more after this.
No, I mean, I've been thinking about that and how this feels different different than the protests we saw in 2020, because in 2020, there was a real issue with police brutality in Portland. And ostensibly, that's what the protest was about fighting the things that the city itself was doing that we all knew were wrong and we wanted to change. And this is a totally different situation, right? This is someone from all the way outside telling us who we are and us saying, no, we aren't that. Like, we're actually a great community. Fuck off.
Exactly. All right. And finally, we have CityCast Chicago host Jacoby Cochran. Chicago came very close to having Trump send in federal troops like he did in D.C. to fight crime, which is illegal. Trump found that out, that he cannot send federal troops into states for any kind of law enforcement activity unless it's some kind of emergency. But I thought it would be interesting to hear from someone who lives in a city that Trump might actually hate even more than Portland.
What's up, CityCast Portland? This is Jacoby Cochran, the senior host of CityCast Chicago. Our city has been on high alert not only for months and this entire year, but we have been on high alert dating back to even 2016 as it relates to the Trump administration. Even prior to coming into office for his first term, Chicago was already the rhetorical site of his misinformation, his racism, and his attempts to embolden a conservative base that wants nothing other than to paint Chicago and other major cities as sites of chaos and lawlessness, which obviously is not supported in either our lived realities nor in the data. And so with all of that in mind, at least the communities that I am a part of and an ally of, many of them have been preparing for this for months and for years. As it relates to this administration, what that has looked like this time around is increased Know Your Rights campaigns. It's more Chicagoans coming out to participate in the documentation of these unconstitutional stops. It's been organizations and community members coming together to create a really robust network of care, whether that's providing people with access to legal resources, providing families with funding and shelter, providing groceries for families who are afraid to go out in their neighborhoods. Now, of course, you got Chicagoans who do welcome this approach, who see the authoritarian playbook as righteous in the ways that it has been painted. But so many of the Chicagoans I see are terrified for their neighbors. It may be subjective, but what is objective is that what the federal government has been doing by way of pulling resources from public schools and healthcare and threatening infrastructure and transportation investment and using federal funding as a way to bully political opponents. Like, these things don't make Chicagoans safer. They don't help us to address the very structural deficits and problems that we do have. They don't do that. If I had any advice, it's to lean into one another, continue to build resource chains for one another. Obviously, I am wishing health and safety to everyone who is directly on the front lines of protesting the federal government and the various sort of vestiges of their authoritarian power play. But I guess this is from my perspective. Yeah, my city is terrified, but it is surviving and coming to the aid of one another as best it can.
Claudia, I love this so much.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Jacoby. Thank you, Jacoby.
Yeah, thank you so much to Jacoby and Julia and Annie, who also reached out, and of course, Sarah, for taking the time. We did this because our listeners were like, what is going on in these cities, you know, and we listen to you. We want to help. And I knew when I heard these, I was like, well, this is helping me. This is really putting me at ease. Oh, so I figured it might be a good thing to share.
Just to echo what Jacoby and some of the other folks said, is that it's this uniting force. And as John mentioned as well, we're already seeing that. Common foes, whether that's, you know, spats at city council or, you know, the business alliance and the and more progressive leaning groups, everybody's like, no, that's not true. Get out of here.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a weirdly optimistic moment, maybe not in terms of what the federal government is doing or the shutdown or all of this doom and gloom, but just as a community, like, holy shit, we live in such a cool place where people care so much about our city and are willing to sort of step up and do things about it, you know, whether that is our governor trying to stand up to the president of the United States, to a bunch of freaking great weirdos in our community programming a naked bike ride, right? I mean, I don't know about you guys. I've just been so blown away by the support that we've seen on this show over the last couple days. Not to make it about us, but like, you know, with this membership drive that we've been doing, we've heard from so many people who've joined, and like, we're just so glad to have you as a part of it. We're going to be thanking people well into next week, but right now I just want to thank Hannah N, Jess J, Lourdes V, Jack H, Hoyt H, Jonah S, Jim L, Grace A, Emma H, Ann N, Mommy G, Mary R.O., Kimberly N, and everybody else who has listened and everybody who's joined as a neighbor during this membership drive. If you join, we are so happy to shout you out on the show. There's a bunch of perks. You will get that tote bag, and just excited for you to be a part of it. So check it out. Become a member today at membership.citycast.fm.
Nice. All I can think of is if Mommy G is a nickname and her real name is Mother G.
It's Mommy. It's short for mother. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope that what you heard today is relieving some anxiety, because I know there's so much anxiety happening right now. So yeah, just enjoy this weekend. We're supposed to have some nice weather, I think, in one of the days.
It's going to be sunny, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's get out there. What is it? Buns out, guns out.
Guns out, buns out.
There we go. Guns out, buns out. Let's go do it.
Thanks, Claudia.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. Our podcast production team this week was John Notarianni, Julia Fiaioni, PJ Shahamet, and myself. Our Hey Portland newsletter editor is Rachel Monahan, and our host is me, Claudia Meza. Original music by Jenny Conley and Steven Drizos. Additional music by All the Kimonos, as well as Sarah the Instrumentalist, Timothy Infinite, and Gregory David, courtesy of Epidemic Sound, alongside Opal 99 and D-May, courtesy of Triple Scoop Music. We'll be back Monday morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.